Okay, guys, Papa Sammy here, and today we're going to talk about who the strongest slasher is. Um, I'm not talking about 1v1s, I'm just talking about who has the general most overall power. And I guess I'll rank, for example, Zadina would obviously be the weakest, but still she has a pretty good power level. I'd give her a 200. 50 is that of a normal person. So she has a 200. That's for a reference. Um, and this is based on how much destructive force they can do, which I'll give her the benefit of the doubt that electricity is pretty powerful, and be able to shoot out of your staff is pretty broken too. And I'm sure she could cause a lot of damage with that. She could probably break someone's car. She could probably freaking, destroy someone's house, maybe. Electricity is pretty powerful. Anyway, next up is probably going to be Sheila. Sheila has a little bit more destructive force than Zadina. I would rank her at maybe 250, maybe 300. Only because she has shotguns, and her ult is when what gives her the spot that she is. Otherwise, she'd literally be at the same spot as, if not lower than Zadina. And I say that because it's cool she has shotguns, or blunderbusses if you want to be correct about it. I don't care. But the thing is that it's a freaking shotgun. Like, bullets really don't cause that much damage. They really don't. Unless it's a person. But if I shoot at like a wall, it's just putting holes in the wall, really. So like, sure, I guess, bro, but like still, not the same thing. Anyway, yeah. Next up would have to be Ghost. I would say Ghost because one, he has an A and B rifle, which causes a lot more damage than a shotgun because a shotgun's just shooting out pellets. And two, his ult. His ult is literally like probably the most damaging thing known to man. I'll probably give him like, you know, I'll probably give him a 500 because he literally can summon an airstrike at any given time of his choosing. With like, let's say like a minute cooldown, because that's really all it takes. He's so high ranking that he can do that on his own. He doesn't even ask; he just does it. So yeah, yeah. I'll give him like a 500, maybe even a 600, because that's really destructive. A full-on Air Force strike. Like, you can destroy houses, buildings. It's really destructive. He's really powerful. Obviously, military-wise, too, because he has grenades, too, which is why I'm giving him the 500. I'm probably giving 550, to be honest with you. 550 sounds about good to me. Next up is going to be Decker. Decker's going to be at a 200. This is because he isn't supposed to be. In fact, I'm gonna put him at 100. He isn't supposed to be very destructive. Zadina is more powerful than him technically. She's a mage. She's a legit mage. He's an old man who's a detective who can arrest people, I guess. And it's not like his arrest actually does damage. He just keeps you from moving around. Which keeping someone from moving around isn't really causing damage unless you really want to get technical and be like, oh, but what if he did it while they were on a cliff? Sure, go ahead and do that. But I don't think anyone here is going to do that. If you are, there you go. Just proved you wrong. Anyway, yeah. So basically, he's not very destructive. I'm gonna give him 100. He's basic. He has a gun. He can do basic things. Sure, he can cloak too. I guess that's a little more destructive. That's only why. That's why I'm not just giving him a 50 because he's just a normal human being, as opposed to Sheila, who's literally superhuman. But yeah, moving on next, it's gonna have to be Cyborg for me. Cyborg is extremely destructive. He has a freaking machine gun, missiles, you know, and think about it this way: he is a war machine. And if you've ever watched an Iron Man movie, he's like Iron Man. He can cause so much destruction, like so much just on his own. And I think that gives him like maybe a 1,000 to be honest with you, because his ult is even more devastating. It's a lot more devastating than airstrike because Rascal, taking it into consideration, even then, Ghost is summoning three generally small areas. I mean, I'd say his areas are about as big as maybe three cars. So like technically, and like side by side, not like bottom to front, like side by side, like door to door. Like, and I'm pretty sure cars about as wide as 4 feet, maybe 6 feet, probably about 4 to 5 feet. Um, is about as wide as a normal car is. I'm not talking about like a truck or a big car, just like a normal small car, And you do that times three, 4 times three, that's 12 feet. and a direction. And 3 of those, that's 36 feet of coverage, I guess, which isn't very big for an airstrike. But it could definitely destroy a building, especially because it's bombs. Bombs, it doesn't really matter how big the area of bombs is. If it's a lot of bombs like it is for him, it's going to destroy some crap, especially because of AoE damage like this. But anyway, yeah, he's got a 500. I'm going to have to give, based off of that, I'm going to have to give Cyber like a 700, maybe even 800, because his laser is basically kind of infinite. Lasers travel an infinite range. And on top of that, it literally obliterates everything in it. You cannot survive walking through it. You can survive a ghost hole if you get out in time. You can't even survive it. If you were in the old law for Cyber, you're obliterated. There's no coming back. I'm pretty sure it would decimate a building easily because it's literally just a giant laser beam. Like, it is the definition of that laser beam that guy on Roblox in that one ad would have fired if he would have charged his laser beams when he said, I'm firing my laser beams. He's literally the definition of that, so yeah. Plus, he has missiles, which I'm sure when he's not firing his lasers, he can just shoot a bunch of missiles, and missiles are very powerful. It's like shooting. It's like what Ghost uses basically. Just he can use it a little more commonly, a little more often. And by often, I mean you can use it every 4 seconds if he uses all 4 of them at once. But yeah. And then on top of the fact, he has a machine gun. Machine guns are very powerful. That's a lot of damage. Like, if he wanted to, he could be a terrorist and cause so much damage. And, he'd probably live because he has armor, too. And I'm pretty sure he has armor covering his head, too. He just doesn't wear it. So, on top of that, yeah. He's very powerful. He's probably the most powerful clasher besides... I'll leave that up later. Anyway, next up would be Rascal. And Rascal... I wouldn't say Rascal's as powerful as he is defensive. He has a turret, which turrets can be pretty powerful. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to give him a 300 for that, because that is pretty powerful. A turret, considering that most times you shoot a turret, we're not even going to take into account the actual logic of Q-Clash, because I don't think 3 bullets would kill a turret if you shot it like that. Usually turrets take multiple bullets, maybe even like actually tearing it apart, like with physical force, not just ranged weapons. And I'm just going to put it at this. Someone will have to try a little bit harder than normal to break a turret than they would to kill a man. Since the turret's a machine, doesn't feel pain, it keeps on going even if it is getting shot at. Which we all know that too well. Plus his turrets have a far range. So basically he could definitely cause a little bit of damage, but he's not causing like any serious damage besides killing people. That's definitely serious damage, but I'm talking about like destruction. I'm talking about like actual freaking destruction. Which I'm sure his bullets could pierce the field buildings, like destroy a couple cars maybe. But at this point, I'm going to have to bring Sedina at 300 too, because she can do as much damage as he can, if not better. Yeah. Anyway, moving on to, Sir Knight, our favorite. I'm going to include Sir Knight from the new update as opposed to the old update, because it's a little weird. Leaping on something isn't exactly a recipe for destruction, even if you are 7'7". Now, when you incorporate riding a horse into something, maybe, I don't know. I'm gonna include both. I'm gonna do one for both. His old Sir Knight probably could cause a little bit of destruction. I'm not gonna lie, probably would. But at the same time, new Sir Knight could cause a little more destruction with his Magma Fist. Definitely. So yeah, he could definitely easily beat somebody with the Magma Fist. And since it's magma and it's like a fist, it is literally gonna punch something and burn something. Even then, he's not very destructive in the end game of things. He's not very destructive at all. So yeah, he's not very destructive. Moving on. Next up, I'm gonna include Reapers. Oh, my bad. Ranking for Sir Knight. I give Sir Knight a 400. He's not more dangerous than a normal human being. Him being immortal definitely has something to do with danger, but like in the end of things, like he's just gonna swing his sword, ride his horse into people, pin him down, and then use his Magma Fist. Which I'm not gonna give a rating for someone who just uses a Magma Fist and just has one destructive skill. I'm not gonna do that. Well, okay. Xena obviously aside because that's all she can do, but plus she's a mage, so I'm sure that she can cook up some other crap. She's a legit mage, so she can do something else. I'm guaranteed. But back up to what I was saying. Yeah. Generally, I can see Sir Knight not being very destructive. He can only engage on one-on-one fights anyway. So like I don't know how well he's gonna do it at trying to destroy places. Don't get me wrong, he's a big sword, but like the best he can do is destroy a car in one swing. And a car is made of plastic nowadays, so like that isn't really a feat either. Yeah. Moving on to Reaper. Like 400 and only 400 only because of the fact that mainly because of the fact that she's has explosive bullets and she has poison. She can poison areas, which is pretty effective in my opinion. And on top of the fact that she legitimately has explosive bullets. It's an explosion, and she can shoot them every 4 seconds. So she could, and she's a sniper too, so she could randomly shoot an explosive bullet at you from, like 100 feet away, and that's pretty destructive, especially since you can't tell where it's coming from. And she could basically do infinite damage as long as she's untouched. Which generally, since she's a sniper, I don't think she is going to get touched at all. So yeah, I'll give her a 400, maybe even a 450. Anyway, obviously the winner would be Cyborg. I don't think Cyborg was ever going to lose. He literally has a freaking laser cannon that is like 7 feet tall, or maybe like 12 feet tall. It's like 12 feet tall and like 8 feet wide. It's a very wide cannon, very very wide. It's very hard to avoid if you're inside of it too, unless you just move out the way. But if you can't see it happening, obviously it's going to be a little harder. Anyway, Cyborg wins. Second most powerful is Ghost, probably. Thinking about it over again, like he does have explosives. But yeah, Cyborg wins, obviously. I just thought this would be a cool concept. Now, like 1v1s with Clashers, that's a different story. I don't know if I want to get into that alone. I'll probably invite someone to help me with that because that's like a whole different thing to consider. I have to consider the Clashers like I have to consider the Clasher like as a person. I have to consider how smart they are. I have to consider how they would act. I have to consider the fact that if I put Sir Knight and Cyborg up against each other, that they're not going to be stupid and just walk into each other's ults. They're not going to be like Cyborg is going to be dumb enough to engage with Sir Knight, who's in his immortality. Like I have to consider the fact that Sir Knight can easily get up in Cyborg's face and just whack him with the sword. And that Cyborg has armor, obviously. I have to consider so much crap that it's really dumb, and I don't feel like doing that with just me. I'd have to get a second person here, which I probably will do. Anyway, that's that. Thanks for listening, and until then, keep clashing. So yeah, and the new update will be out soon, guys. We're literally there. So yeah, Galway's just about done, which is cool. Like I said before. Till then, keep clashing.